It is now official. We are here and we're getting ready. Oh, there we go. We got some live streaming happening now. Looks like it's all just coming into line there, Kathy. Great job. Oh, yes, we got you on mute. I don't know what happened there, but that's good. Excellent. Kathy is very good at what she is doing here, and as much as I'd like to think I'm a tech person, I couldn't do what she's doing. Just maintaining 2 different streams and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I hope.
I haven't been on Facebook in 5 years, so this whole concept is just, completely over my head. So.
Hey guys, guess what day
Kathy.
it is and what time? Good morning, Jason. How's it going over there today?
Good morning, Kathy. How you
It's
doing?
a little dark. I can barely see you. What's going on?
It is. You might be able to see my face, right? But it's kind of hard, maybe, and it's not as clear. I can fix that really quick because it's not really good, especially on a show when I need to be seen, right? And it's hard, right? So can you give me a second?
Sure.
And I hope our
we
guests won't
really
mind.
like you to be seen.
Yeah, okay.
You have to be seen to be
Right,
safe,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, yes, you do. It's really important for those of you that are traversing out in the cold, windy, rainy weather that we have here on the coast. Even if you love this kind of stuff, right, Kathy?
Right.
You really have to do your best to be seen.
Absolutely. And I'm sure our guest has heard that before too, that whole be safe, be seen slogan. So
Absolutely,
we're hoping,
yeah.
Jason, yay, that is much
go.
better.
Isn't
Excellent.
it? It's a whole lot better. Yes, you can see
that's a
things
whole
now.
different world now that you have
Absolutely.
some light on you and we can see
Hey.
you. It's awesome. Perfect.
Jason, you're
Yes.
safer all of a sudden.
I am very safe now. People can see my surroundings. I've got a camera to make sure that I'm safe as well too, and bright clothing back there. So it is important out there to be safe by being seen, everybody.
This is all a kind of in jest, but there is some seriousness behind it.
Absolutely.
Even if you're not outdoors, you need to have your space well lit so that you don't, like for me, trip over my own feet. I need to be able to see what's in my surroundings so I can keep myself safe. So thank you, Jason, for helping us out with that demonstration of what the difference is with good lighting and not so good lighting and being out there and keeping yourself safe by being seen. That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
It's so important. Yeah, you bet. It was a lot of fun to do, a lot of fun to play around this morning, but we do have some wonderful people here this morning, Kathy, to chat with us, don't we?
Yes, we do. So I just want to welcome our guests today. We have 2 wonderful guests with us today, Ken Schunkweiler from ODOT and Carolyn Crisp, also from ODOT. Thanks for joining us, and maybe you can both tell us a little bit about yourselves and who you are and what the different things are that you do for ODOT.
Yeah, sure, Kathy. So thanks again for having us today. My name is Ken Schunkweiler. I'm a planner at ODOT. I cover the 4 counties in Northwest Oregon, and specifically about Clatsop County, which we're going to talk a little bit about today. My favorite color probably oscillates between blue or camo. Probably camo this time of year, except I'm trying to be seen.
Yes, not while you're out there walking along by the streets, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. And we're going to talk about a facility plan project that we have in Gearhart, and pronouns are he and him. And I'm going to pass it over to Caroline.
Cool. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Ken. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, hi, I'm Caroline. I am the GIS and planning intern for Region 2. I am currently in my last year of my master's program at Portland State University. At ODOT, I focus on equitable outreach work as well as multimodal transportation needs. And my favorite color, if I'm going to be honest, is probably like a really light pink because it goes with everything. You can pair it with any pattern, any other color. So yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Wonderful hearing a little bit about everybody. So that's really cool. Kathy, I'm excited to hear what's going on. I don't know what we do next. I mean, I think we got to go on and just find out what's happening.
Right. So, Ken, you mentioned that we were going to talk about a facilities plan, but I want to kind of back up a little bit and maybe explain to people that are watching that aren't, into transportation plans and planning as much as our group right here is, and explain maybe the steps of the process and how it happens and what a facilities plan is and where it comes from and what a TSP is.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point, Kathy. So at ODOT, we use a lot of technical jargon. We're infamous for this, but a facility plan is simply more or less a planning document that we do on our facilities. It could be rural, it could be urban. It's just where we do a lot of analysis, whether it be traffic analysis, bike ped analysis. We look at both the existing and the future conditions. We do a lot of public outreach. We come up with some goals of the project, maybe with a participant advisory committee, and then go out to the public. Usually, since COVID, it's been a lot of online open houses. And then we come up with some draft solutions and then do some other check-ins with the community on there just to see what our solutions are based on engineering judgment and how palatable they are to the community members themselves. By the time this is done, we take this planning document and then we have a path forward on what we need to do as far as funding and design for a particular stretch of highway. These get adopted, in two different ways. So a transportation system plan, which follows an almost identical process, but covers a jurisdiction, whether it be a city or a county. Those get adopted by a city council or a planning commission as well too. And then with a facility plan, these are plans that we do for ODOT, right? And so these go to the Oregon Transportation Commission for adoption as well. They get signed by the director. And then it's part of the Oregon Highway Plan. It's basically a way to show our work and show that we've done some public involvement, the necessary analysis, and have come up with a reasonable solution that can be funded within the 20-year planning horizon.
Awesome. Well, 20
Really
years
cool.
is a long time to plan ahead for. I don't know how many people can manage those kinds of timetables. So that's pretty amazing. So I know Jason wanted to ask a question, but where does it all start? And when do the people find out about these things, these wheels turning?
Yeah, so the people, it varies as far as that is. So the first step is for me to really just do some outreach with what we call agency outreach with the jurisdiction, in this case, Gearhart, and just talk to them and see if they're interested in doing it in the first place, right? We don't plan for no reason at all. If we're going to spend money to create and do all of this work, it's usually because there's an issue and because people are unhappy with the current situation that it is. So we do that first step of some agency outreach, and then I write up a contract usually to have a consultant to help me with some of the analysis and maybe some of the alternatives. And then throughout the way, we'll establish what we call a participant advisory committee and a technical advisory committee. The participant advisory committee usually is comprised of people who represent different modes, whether it be pedestrians, transit interests, vehicular interest enthusiasts, safety, people in the corridor. It could be a member from a specific demographic group in the county. It can really just be just about anybody who's interested in having a way to shape the planning document. And then what we do from there, we kind of bounce ideas back and forth between the agency, our ODOT expertise, and then this participant advisory committee. And then when we come up with some ideas that we feel like we can share with the public, they've been vetted, but we want to get more buy-in or get more feedback and decide if this is really the right solution, that's when we have some kind of an open house or do some more targeted outreach. And that's what we're getting ready to do for this planning document. I'll get into that a little bit later, but this is why this show is a great preface for us doing that. It can help us get the word out and get some people to take a look at what we're doing and give us some feedback.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that, Ken. And I, just kind of along those same lines, when you're getting ready to engage with your community, and this can be for either both of you here, what are some of the common questions or the common concerns? I'm assuming you've gone through this before. Definitely ODOT's gone through this before. What are some of those common questions that people comes up with? I mean, maybe you can just give me one example, perhaps. But what are some of those things? What is the engagement like, really on the visceral level, where people are really engaging with you and asking you questions? What is that like?
I'd say it varies all over the state. I do run a couple statewide projects as well too every year. But if we're talking about just this northwest corner, usually what people are worried about are things like safety, connectivity for the modes, like how can I get from point A to point B, and how is this going to impact my ability to get to Astoria from Seaside in a quick manner. That's kind of the thing. Safety is a big thing and a big topic that a lot of people bring up in all of our planning documents. They're also concerned about how we affect their town and what we do to change the character of it.
Cool.
Different people have ideas about what their community should look like, and whether it's some kind of a bypass or whether it's street lighting or things like this. We want to come up with a solution that really mimics the goals of the community.
That's great. Thank you very much. And that is really encouraging, because there are people who will have those concerns and questions and so forth that they want to ask you. And it's really good that you all are out there ensuring that they're understanding what's happening and that you're answering their questions. It makes for such a better project, I'm assuming.
It does. And it helps a ton that we have shows like this to help us get the word out. So
cool.
It's really challenging during COVID to do outreach, right? So before we could put
Indeed.
a board up and have people show up at an open house, now a lot of things are online. And so it's a different kind of barrier to get people involved.
So Ken,
Thanks.
can you?
Oh my gosh, there was a sounds like just an absolute wild animal that was running around in Kathy's house there. She's stepped out a little bit there, but Ken, I guess I wanted to give the both of you the opportunity now. I think this would be really a good time. You've already explained, the TSP, and you mentioned how that we have this facility plan that you're going to be talking about and so forth. And so I think we're really excited to kind of just let you have the floor here and really kind of talk about what's coming up. And like you said, this is a really good, preface to get this word out and to start getting people excited about it, and really, really educate them on what's coming forward for this community. So Ken, what do you think about that? You think it's a pretty good plan to kind of let you just go at it?
Yeah, let's jump right in. I'm going to share
do it
real quick, Jason and Kathy.
Sure.
Let me relearn how to use Zoom. All right, so let's start talking about Gearhart. So this is a stretch of highway where we're going to sit and talk about why we're doing a facility plan here, and what we're coming up with is some strategies and solutions to deal with some of the issues. And so, as I mentioned before, we don't plan for no reason at all, right? So there has to be an issue. Otherwise, we more or less leave it as it is and then focus where the issues are. One of the things that we hear as we work with both city officials and law enforcement are about a lot of the crashes, of which we have a lot of data on, and then the aggressive driving tactics. We hear a lot from business owners about how it's hard to access either by foot, bike, or vehicle a lot of the businesses that are on each side of the highway.
Right.
And we then try to, take a look and see what we can do. Just a couple of things to point out as we look down Gearhart. We're just right north of the Pacific Way intersection here. You can see, this is on the Oregon Coast bike route, right? So we have a lot of cycle tourists that come down.
Yes, absolutely.
We have Sunset Empire that operates right here, and I think there's on this side of the highway, we more or less have a signpost.
Yep, there we go.
Pretty typical to the Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
We've got 4 to 5 lanes of traffic depending on where the turn lanes are. We don't have a continuous turn lane. No shoulders, very few crossings. In fact, the only marked crossing that we have in the corridor is at the Pacific Way signal. And so we have about a mile north of that where it's really difficult for people to cross the highway.
Right. So Ken, I got a quick question really quick. You mentioned a continuous turn lane. For those of us out there that aren't totally familiar with what that means, can you describe what a continuous turn lane is?
Yeah, sure. So this is just the yellow stripe. The 2 yellow stripes, they vary from about 11 to 14 feet.
Okay.
And it lets people pull in and get out of the lane and then be able to access their destination. You know, one of the issues that we have right here from a safety perspective is that as people go to pass people on the other side of the 2-lane cross section here, and if you want to make a left turn up here farther north or a right turn, sometimes there's blind spots. We have a lot of accidents where people make turning movements and the car who's jockeying behind them goes to pass and speed. You know, according to the local law enforcement in Gearhart, you know, we have people that get tickets written for 80 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone.
Wow.
It's really challenging, right? And so you're trying
Quite significant, yeah.
Yeah, you're trying to balance all this stuff while providing access to businesses for really all modes of transportation. You know, it's kind of it's a bit of a feat, but we're working on it.
Good. Sounds challenging, but yet it also sounds like you guys have got a real good idea how to move forward on that. That's really cool.
We're coming up with some solutions, Jason. I'm pretty excited about it. Yeah, and so back to where we talked about transportation system plans, really, so the city, local law enforcement, and a lot of business owners have given us a ton of feedback and included it in their transportation system plan that they'd much rather have some more urban fixes to this corridor, so it acts more like a town instead of, you know, what some people would call a freeway, right?
Sure.
And so this includes, you know, having what we call a road reconfiguration, where we're able to add more pedestrian crossings. We're able to provide a turn lane for vehicles. We're able to do some sidewalk infill because it frees up a lot of space in the roadway. And so we
Sounds like it.
And then add bike lanes in the end. And that gives us a lot of opportunity to, you know, work with the transit agency as well to formalize some places for stops and maybe pullouts, maybe not. That's kind of what we're working through right now.
Sure.
And so, you know, that 3-lane cross section with 1 travel lane in both directions and center turn lane is what we're really working off of from the city's TSP to move this into a facility plan and have a more detailed design for the corridor.
Nice.
Yeah, we're
Well,
excited.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, we're about halfway through the project right now. So we've done, you know, a lot of traffic analysis to, you know, make sure this concept works within our levels of congestion in the Oregon Highway Plan, as well as how bikes and peds are affected throughout the corridor. We have this term called bicycle level of traffic stress. It basically just shows how stressful it is to get down the corridor and what kind of chances cyclists have to take, as well as people going to bus stops on their bike or walking to bus stops. You know, and so we look at all this and pull this together and use this to support our recommendation from the analysis side.
Excellent.
What we're getting ready to do is we have a couple of alternatives, and I'll let you ask some more questions before I jump into those, but we came up with a couple alternatives and we'll go out to the public and see what they think.
Well, that's going to be exciting to hear a little bit more about those. And back to the cycling, I'm so happy to hear you talk about cycling and that it seems to be a very high priority on there. I cycle up and down here, this very portion, at least about a dozen times during the summertime, just either for fun or sometimes I like to get out there and see how long it would take me to commute from where I'm at here in Warrenton all the way down to there. But it is a little unnerving. I'm very comfortable riding my bicycle along with traffic and so forth, but it doesn't feel very protected, you know. So part of that protectiveness that I'm going for is just one of the things is knowing that ODOT and yourself, when you plan and you're thinking about these things, you're thinking about cyclists. So I really appreciate that, because I believe that's a great way we're going to be moving forward with transportation in general as an option, is using bicycles. So we have to make sure that as we're moving forward and planning for these projects moving forward, we have to do, definitely think about the bicycles. So thank you very much for that, Ken. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a multimodal agency, right? And that's the biggest challenge for ODOT is how do we come up with a solution that really benefits everybody, and
Good point.
outweigh those kind of pros and cons to each mode individually, so that people can really get up and down the corridor in a safe manner.
Good. Excellent.
So-
Well, go ahead and continue. Or Kathy, you're back. So what's
I'm
going on with
back,
you?
and I apologize for that interruption. And I just want to let Facebook and YouTube world know that we may have missed the beginning of this, but we'll make sure to repost the whole thing in its entirety. I don't know what technically was going on with the technical goblins in the computer this morning, but we'll get that fixed. The outburst at my house was a dog, not the goblins, so we got that under control. I just want to make sure that we're asking, and inserting Carolyn into this conversation, because she's involved in some of this planning too, and I want people to know all the different levels of things that ODOT does when they are working on something like this, which also kind of highlights all the different types of jobs that there are at ODOT, that it's not just about building roads. There's a lot of other things involved with it. So Caroline, what have you been doing with this project?
Oh, thank you, Kathy. No problem. I also have a dog next to me as well. So any kind of outburst like that happen. Yeah, so I've been working with Ken on developing an outreach plan for the city of Gerhardt. So, one of our main focuses is how are we going to do equitable and engaging outreach in a way where we can really get to the core of what the residents are valuing, and to the core of what the needs are of the area. And, as Ken has mentioned, a big value that residents have at the city of Gerhardt is safety, right? As you can imagine, crossing US 101, if you're trying to get, kind of through this central business district, isn't super safe as it stands right now. And we really try and take an all ages and abilities approach, where we want, someone to be able to cross with their kids. We want someone to be able to cross in a wheelchair. And what does sidewalk infrastructure look like when we think about it in those terms? So that will kind of all come into the designing realm of it. And yeah, no, it's been really fun to just kind of develop an outreach plan and, get to know the residents of Gerhardt a little bit better. So those are kind of the things I'm working on, if that answers your question.
Yes,
Great.
it does. Thank you so much. And
Sure.
I just want to mention that I was part of a group with Ken that was out there looking physically at this road. So it's not just, ODOT isn't doing this all from a sky high distance using Google Maps to look at these things and make decisions.
Right.
They're actually feet on the ground, looking at these things, interacting with the road and with the people and with the things that are, happening physically on this road. And we witnessed a lot of potentially risky behaviors on this road, and they're required to be able to right now to be able to move around and get from businesses on one side to businesses on the other side. And hopefully,
Absolutely.
Ken's about to show us some things that would make those types of behaviors unnecessary and safer in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Kathy, thanks for attending our participant advisory stakeholder walk, by the way. I did appreciate that. So I'm just going to use an old presentation just to go through a couple of alternatives and then promote our next outreach event, so that people can get in and let us know what they think about what we've come up with so far.
Awesome.
So I'm just going to skip through a few slides. So again, here's our schedule. we're really, at the point where we're coming up and we're about to gather some feedback on some alternatives, and then refine our alternatives, and then come up and do some more outreach with the council, and then come up with the final facility plan. We hope to be done with this next year, and then just really start looking for funding to build some of this stuff. So as far as the alternatives are considered, here are the things that we think that we've come up with that we want all of your feedback on. So we have two alternatives as a cross section, right? So closer throughout the corridor, right? So we have what we call a roadway reconfiguration, where we have one travel lane in each direction, the center turn lane that helps people get into the businesses and residences that live across and up and down the corridor. Space for a bicycle to travel, because we're able to reallocate some of that space, and then even provide a slightly wider striped buffer for that cyclist, so they're not directly right up against the vehicle as they're going down the highway. There's a little bit of separation there. On top of that, what we've always heard in the TSP and from our last round of outreach when we did the transportation system plan was the desire for some kind of ped bike facility on the east side of the highway. That's where a lot of people live, and if they want to travel up and down, I think back to times when I've driven in rainstorms and seen people with baby carriages pushing up and down the shoulder, and there's we have a lot of flooding in the corridor, so we're trying to come up with some drainage solutions as well. But it's just an incredibly difficult place if you live on the northeast side to actually get down the highway, let alone get across it. And that goes for if you're in a vehicle or on foot. Another alternative that we're looking at, is to really just do our typical sidewalk bike lane infill instead of a multi-use path. Maybe the desire is just to have a sidewalk, especially in the more commercial corridor around Pacific Way, and then some kind of separated pathway farther up north. The main trade-offs between these alternatives are about $7 million, right? And so Gearhart is a long city. We have some initial cost estimates that come up with this alternative being around 6 and 7 million to do throughout the corridor. Whereas a separated multi-use path in alternative A is just around 14 million, and that comes with, balancing time and need. It takes more time to come up with that kind of funding and build, this kind of infrastructure. We heard a lot about, and these are just some more cross sections, and I can pass this presentation to you, Kathy, if you're interested in adding that as well too. Another interesting thing for people who are, who live in Gearhart or maybe just travel the corridor is this intersection on Gearhart Lane, right? So we have a lot of traffic. It operates when we look at the traffic capacity and the level of service on this intersection. There's a lot of delay on Gearhart Lane.
Yep.
It takes people a long time to get out of there. And so we're really looking at a concept that, we really only have two alternatives, either a no build scenario where it stays as it is, but with the center turn lane, vehicles can make what's called a two-stage left turn, where you basically get in the center turn lane and then merge into traffic, or a roundabout, and so this is a particularly expensive solution. We're kind of throwing it out there for the public to see their reactions and see if this is something that, they'd want us to pursue. It definitely has right-of-way impacts. It slows traffic down a good bit in the corridor, which has pros and cons for people, maybe people who want to get through fast versus people who live on the corridor that would prefer people drive a little bit slower. But it's just one alternative that we're analyzing per the facility plan, and we'd love to get the community's feedback on this. And see what's really palatable for people.
So Ken, on that plan, you said that there's a difference between, that there'll be a split between people that want to get through fast and potentially people in the community that just want things to slow down and be safer. In theory, though, would the roundabout just help with flow overall, so there'd be less starting and stopping, and the speed overall would be reduced, but potentially people could actually get through there more easily?
That's correct, Kathy. So if you're from the position of where you're trying to exit Gearhart Lane, yes, you'll be able to actually exit in a more timely manner. There's pros and cons to both alternatives, right? It's a lot of traffic calming, I think, is what we prefer to use the term in ODOT speak, but it lets people know as they come into the community that, you know, they're about to approach an intersection. A lot of people, including myself, when I drove through this, I don't even notice Gearhart Lane.
Right.
The difficult thing to visualize on the highway. This provides more of a more balanced flow of traffic between really all of the modes, and especially for vehicular turning movements from Gearhart Lane onto US 101.
Yeah, I will say that I mostly notice Gearhart Lane when I have to suddenly slam on my brakes because somebody jumped out in front of me coming from Gearhart Lane, even either crossing over 101 all the way to go north or to enter into the same travel lane that I'm in. And it just, that road scares me quite frequently.
No, and
Yeah, it does me too.
I would love to make a word cloud someday about how
Yeah.
people feel about transportation, and just scary, terrifying. But this is why we do this, right? In planning, is that we pull together these concepts so that people can see and review the trade-offs, right? In addition to that, you know, we had talked about lack of pedestrian crossings throughout the corridor. And so on the online open house, we have, and actually I'm not going to go too in depth into this, but we have a series of pedestrian crossings throughout the corridor that we can kind of pick from. Wouldn't necessarily implement all of them, but likely could implement a few and just get people's feedback on where it's most important. And that'll help us determine as far as that's concerned. Right now, with a 4-lane cross section and our current pedestrian guidance, and the speeds and volumes in the corridor, it's virtually almost impossible for us to actually mark and install a pedestrian crossing in the corridor. Redesigning the striping as it's been proposed gives a ton of options for us to actually create a few pedestrian crossings.
Yeah, I think overall that's going to continue to be an important thing going forward.
Yeah, it's really neat the way, you know, you look at a variety of things. I mean, you look at the, you know, the roundabout. That's a very big intrusive project in a positive way, I'm just saying it. But you look at, you know, restriping, right? You know, restriping is I see that done all the time where, you know, you have something that might not work and you restripe it and it works, right? So it's really neat that you look at all those and you give that option out to the community to make a determination on what they want. So that's pretty cool to see the difference between the two.
Oh, thanks, Jason. Yeah, we absolutely want to have things that are implementable, right? Roundabout here, likely implementable, but it has right-of-way impacts. It's super expensive. Striping, as you mentioned, you know, that's something we can do. We can hydroblast the striping out, do a slurry seal to cover up the marks, and then install new retro reflective striping.
Right. Excellent. Hey, there's that word, Kathy, retro
Yeah,
reflective.
we love the
I was wondering if I was going to hear
things. So
That's awesome.
I know we're coming to the end of our time, so I want to make sure that we are getting out the information for how people can be involved with this and how people can see what some of these plans are and then how they are able to interact with the plans and or suggestions or input of whatever variety. You showed us the timetable of where we're at in the schedule of things, and we want to make sure that we're giving people access to the online open house that you mentioned, and also want to mention that those things are available not just in English, but they're available to respond in Spanish, right?
Correct, yeah. And so we will have a flyer. Right now, I just have one in English, but we will have flyers in Spanish as well too. Basically, we're going to promote this, try to promote it on social media. Kathy, I can give you some social media posts with the link as well too.
Excellent. So everybody out there in Facebook and YouTube land, keep an eye on these spots for more information, and there'll be some more flyers.
Absolutely. So these links aren't live yet, but what you will be able to do on starting November 3rd through the 24th, where you can go through, and it's a really fun, nifty way to go scan all of the alternatives through a website, and it walks you through, and you can leave feedback on them. And it's a great way for us to get information in the time of COVID and actually reach out to possibly a broader audience. You know, lots of times when we held in-person open houses, sometimes we might get 10 people. It's a huge commitment to actually show up and go to, you know, maybe a city council meeting. And you have to have the time and the money and the resources to, you know, keep your family at bay. You can do this online open house at 2 o'clock in the morning if you want to on November 4th, and leave us all kinds of feedback.
That's awesome. So keep an eye on the comments and on these pages, on this Facebook page, on the YouTube page for links and ways to get involved. If you have questions, if you've heard anything that you're wondering about, drop us a line in the comments and we can lead you to the right information. Ken had a great slideshow presentation, and if you are interested in seeing the whole thing, you can just send us a message and we will send it to you. You can look at it in depth. You can, you know, contact us, contact Ken. We're all available to answer questions for you. Or Caroline, I'm sure would be happy to answer questions as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and even if you don't have the chance to come to the online open house, feel free to drop a comment in this YouTube video as well. We will be gathering all of that feedback. And thank you so much for giving us like a video platform to be able to share some of our ideas about the project.
Absolutely, and we'd be happy to have you on again at some point
Anytime.
in time if that becomes,
Absolutely.
you know, something that you want to do. We're happy to have. We love having guests.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I really want to thank you, Ken and Caroline, for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you, and great information, and definitely information that this community really needs to look at and engage in. And I hope that definitely happens. And thank you for coming on this show to help us be a part of that, Ken and Caroline. So we definitely do thank you for that. And Kathy, I hope the rest of your day goes well there. You got the dog and hanging out, but you got a lot of things going on, but I hope everything works out. But I think we're right up to the end of our show there. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
I
Say thank you too, and I appreciate you both. I'm happy to come back anytime. This is a pretty cool thing you have going on here.
Yeah, we like to keep it light and informational. So, you know, anytime you want to get the word out about something, you just drop us a line and we'll pop you in our show. We're happy to have you.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much. Kathy, have a safe weekend. Everyone be safe by being seen, please. Careful driving around out there in all this weather that we have. So take care. Have a great weekend. And thank you, everybody, for watching the show. We appreciate it.
Yes, the weather report says we're going to have a little bit of a break. Get your rain gear ready so that you're ready to go for when the next weather strikes.
There you go. Okay, take care, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, all.